Yes, and I'm Andres, I'm your translator. How are you?
Jhon, Andres, nice to meet you guys.
No, nice to meet you.
It's an honor, man.
It's an honor, man. We were just talking about your movie. But I know that Jhon got some questions and myself also. By the way, I freaking love it. But I will tell you why. Jhon also like it. But Jhon, preguntas. Y yo obviamente le dije que nos encantó la película.
Bienvenido, Deron. Gracias por esta oportunidad. No, yo quiero empezar preguntándote sobre, es que hay muchas referencias sobre filmes de terror de culto, referencias no solo políticas, referencias tanto en el cine drama, cine clásico. Entonces quiero preguntarte sobre cuál fue de pronto el contexto más importante en la cual usted inspiró Prosper, porque para mí es increíble.
Okay, that's a great question from Jhon. And I also got it. Like, yeah, man, what was the context in which you get inspired to do Prosper? Because, yes, we kind of see terror, but we also see politics, but we also see drama. We saw a lot of things. So what was the context, man?
So that's a great question, man. So the origin from Prosper came from one night I did meditation, right? There's a discipline of meditation called Kundalini. Mm-hmm. And Kundalini is basically where you access the chakra points in your body, right? And so it was my first or second time trying that. And I had this supernatural experience where it was an out of body experience, right? So it was where I went so deep into my mind that I realized I basically materialized this story. And so when I came out of it, which was about 6 to 7 hours later, what happened was I literally lived this story. And that was what was the genesis or the origin of Prosper. I immediately went to my computer and I wrote the script in roughly 2.5 days. And that was the beginning of the journey.
It will be, I got you right about how to write it, man, because I was like, what? I will tell you, Jhon, la historia de cómo surgió Prosper, ojalá espero Deron la tenga escrita, porque él practica yoga. E hizo algo llamado Kundalini. Pues literal, se salió de su cuerpo. Al salirse de su cuerpo, él visualizó toda la historia.
Wow.
No sé cómo demonios tuvo esas imágenes. Y de repente, cuando él volvió en sí, escribió en 2 semanas la historia. Entonces yo le dije, imagínate ese proceso de escribir la historia así, de alguien saliéndose, materializándose.
Oh, man, dame el secreto para también yo escribirla.
Man, we really need to start practicing yoga and do some Kundalini, man. Wow.
Man, I'm going to tell you, so it was so deep that my wife, she was concerned because she thought I was just going to take a nap, but it was, like I said, it was so long. And my breathing became really shallow, right? And my pulse slowed down. So my sister is a pharmacist. She called my sister. My sister came over and they were really concerned. They were so concerned that they actually called the paramedics. So by the time that I was coming to myself, almost 7 hours later, the paramedics were actually on their way here to the house because my sister and my wife, they actually thought I was either dead or something was wrong with me because my heart had slowed down so far. My breathing was so shallow, and my pulse was really light. Right, but what happens is when you go that far, that deep into your mind, it becomes a psychic experience. It's a supernatural experience, right? So I read after the fact that I had allowed myself to get into a state of what they call, I think it's called exponentialism, which is basically where your spirit comes out of your body. It's like a travel thing. I've never experienced that before, man, but I'm gonna tell you what, it was scary. When I came out of it, it's because it's so real, it's so authentic, it's so in it. It's scary, man. It's a really scary place to be.
But it works out, man, because when I watched that movie, I feel it real. And that's all. Yes, okay, I will tell that to my friend Jhon. Jhon, dice que fue tan duro el proceso que incluso la esposa llamó a la hermana, es farmacéutica, porque él está respirando muy lento. Entonces, como que, ¿qué está pasando? Él dice que fue una experiencia muy profunda, dio mucho miedo y que jamás le había sucedido, y que lo que vio fue muy real. Y yo le dije, pues funcionó, porque lo que me gustó de Prosper es que hay escenas que se sienten muy reales, y él dijo que sí, y claro, es verdad.
Wow, man, porque lo que pasa es que cuando yo visualicé gran parte de las secuencias en donde la protagonista, al final, pues no voy a contar el spoiler, pero, man, gran parte de los gráficos o jeroglíficos que había en las intros cuando experimentaba el momento, ¿cuál fue de pronto el centro más del arco de la historia que usted jamás imaginó en algún personaje? Es decir, que diga, bueno, la protagonista, gran parte le sucedió esto, pero a su vez, retratada ya la historia en el guión, ¿qué es lo que te impactó de más de los actores que interpretaban el personaje? O sea, ¿cumplieron con toda la expectativa o hay algunos que digan, en esta otra parte puede que sí?
O se puede preguntar más bien que durante el proceso de reacción, ¿cuál personaje fue el que más lo impactó o en el que sintió que trabajó más?
Exacto.
Okay, this is a great question from Jhon, and we kinda built it in the process of the writing. Man, what was the character that really struck you the most? Like you say, oh man, I need to get more time in this character. Or the question could be like, when you saw the movie, you feel that, yeah, man, all the characters were okay, or I really need to work on more on this character. I don't know if you understand.
So I'm going to piggyback that question with part of the question you asked before. Okay. So you mentioned that there were different elements in the movie, right? So there's drama, there's comedy, there's the scary part. So it's all these elements, right? So what I did is when I was constructing the script, first off, when I tell you I'm so sincere, I essentially just went and I just spewed up all of this that was inside of me onto the page, right? That was how I originally crafted Prosper. So it was almost like 300 pages of a script, right? That I had to then go back and tweak it. I had to go back in, finesse it. Now I put structure to it, right? As I'm doing it, I realized, I said, you know what? I want this to be kind of an homage or a throwback to a different era, right? Not like today, but something different, right? So I went back and I studied Stanley Kubrick, what's his name? Hitchcock, Alfred Hitchcock. I studied their style and what make their movies unique, right? Hitchcock, his thing was he had added comedy into his movies. A lot of people didn't really even recognize that. And the reason for that is it gives the movie that release, you get a release from the tension, right? So when you have that comedic element in there, it provides that essential break, which then allows for the tension to be ratcheted up even higher, right? Because it's taking you out of that tension for a moment. It's giving you a reprieve, right? And then with Kubrick, his thing was all about perspective. So there's certain scenes in the movie where you get a sense of this person's perspective, like Sam, right? The lead girl in the movie. You get a sense of her perspective. You see she's freaked out. She's the one that gets freaked out. It's not everybody else, right? She's the one that's apprehensive. It's not everybody else. She's the one that's getting the warning signs. It's not everybody else. And she's trying to warn them like, guys, this is not what we need to do, right? So it was those things that I wanted to incorporate into the film to give it an authentic feel. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. We'll get more into this. We had real live supernatural experiences happen during the shooting. I'll get more into it, but man, when I tell you the reason why you feel like you feel when you watch the movie is because we literally shot at a house that was haunted, and we had things that happened that, to be honest with you, to this day are still a little bit harrowing even for me.
Man, I will translate right now. Jhon. Bueno, sobre los personajes. Dice que sí, se vuelve a la respuesta anterior. Dice que si ves muchos elementos, que por ejemplo hay personajes que, bueno, él se inspiró obviamente en Hitchcock y en Kubrick. Entonces Hitchcock dice que ahí siempre hay que tener humor, no tan evidente, pero sí humor que te relaje las escenas duras, chocantes. Pero por ejemplo el personaje de Sam, que es muy bueno, tú sabes que él es la única personaje que no, es la única como que, venga, no hay que hacer eso. O sea, como la única consciente en la película, ¿no? Eso no es spoiler, obviamente. Pero dice que si se siente muy real la película es que la casa en realidad está embrujada. Él dice que nos va a contar más sobre eso y obviamente decir que nos cuente obviamente sobre eso, pero que si se siente ese ambiente es porque la casa estaba así. Le diré que nos cuente. ¿Eh?
Oh, sí, cuéntanos. Tell me, man.
Yeah, man, tell us about the haunted house, please.
So the deal with the haunted house. Okay, so my first AD came to me when we were looking for the principal photography for the locations, right? And he found this house. The guy that owns the house, both he and his wife, they're what you call practicing Wiccans, right? So if you know anything about the occult and the Wiccans and their history and indoctrination, all this other stuff. So they're really into supernatural, right? They're into spells and all this stuff, So when I talked to him, he says, well, I need you to understand something. I would love to have you guys shoot here. He's like, but we have a spirit that lives in the house. See, there are actually several, but there's one that's active, right? So this house is built in like the mid 1800s. So it was the furthest point north that General Sherman made when they were fighting the Civil War. So it was the furthest point north he made to Atlanta, right? And for whatever reason, he did not destroy the property. It was what's called an old grist mill, right? Fast forward years later, the house was bought by this, I think it was a pharmacist or something like that, and his wife. And the wife was basically a stay-at-home mom or just a stay-at-home, wife. She loved the property so much, put her heart and soul into it. One day she fell and she died, right? Her blood went into the ground. Okay. Her husband didn't discover her until like 4 or 5 days later. Okay. She came back. She's laying there and her body is on the ground and all this other stuff. Well, what happened is a couple of days later, he dies from a heart attack. Right. So now you got both of these folks died in this house. Okay. The lady spirit has haunted the house ever since. Okay. You will visually see her. If you go to the house, you will visually see this lady. She will make her presence known. Okay. Let me pause there and let me let you catch Jhon up.
In fact, man, if you want to keep talking, don't worry. I got great memory, but yeah, I will tell Jhon because I need Jhon. Bueno, agárrate la silla, Jhon. La casa fue construida en la época de la Guerra Civil. Esto fue en Atlanta. Tú sabes muy bien todo el contexto, de hecho. En esa casa, los que la tienen ahora practican wiccanismo, las wiccas. Bueno, la mal llamada brujería. Esto resulta que en esa casa ellos dijeron, mira, hay varios espíritus, pero hay uno que ustedes pueden ver. De hecho, no sé si en la película se ve, pero hay uno que ustedes pueden ver. Resulta que es que una persona que murió en esa casa fue asesinada y la sangre quedó ahí. Es más, la sangre sigue ahí. Entonces, eso encantó la casa. Entonces, ellos entraron grabando sabiendo esa historia.
So we had a conversation. He told me, he says, the guy says, he goes by Kai. He says, look, man, there's a couple of things that concern me about your script. He said, your seance scene is written so real. The chants are so real that my guess is you're going to have these experiences, supernatural experiences, right? He said, because your chants are like chants that we would use. And you're literally calling spirits into the physical realm. He said, have you had any experiences? I was like, yes, man. We had a table read like a couple of weeks before that. And we had, during this table read, we were doing the seance scene. The light started to dim. The room got cold. And we saw this energy. You could feel this energy that had entered the space, right? Well, my casting director, who was also one of our producers, she's taking pictures during this whole time. And she shows me at the end of the rehearsal that she had got an orb that was sitting over the head of one of the actors, right? Like sitting right behind me, right? There was an orb in the room about this size, right? About the size of 3 or 4 soccer balls, right? And it was hovering over this actor's head in the room in the pictures. She's got like 3 pictures of it. Right. And then there was another time where she and I exit the building. Everyone else had left. Now, let me back up. When that happened, I lost 3 of my actors because they freaked out. I had to go and replace them because it was that real, it was that scary. Right. And so then like about 2 weeks later, a week later, something like that, she and I are exiting the building. And it's really foggy that night. And I'm walking her to her car and everyone is already gone. We were kind of going over everything in preparation for the movie. And I heard, we both heard this voice, and this voice was like, and it was like echoing around us, right? It was a really dark voice, and he goes something like, it's like, This is what we're hearing, echoing around us, right? She's freaked out. I'm freaked out. And I'm trying to get her to her car. She's like, Deronte, get in the car. Deronte, get in the car. I'm like, no, I'm trying to be bold. I'm trying to be this, right? And all of a sudden we hear it again. This time it runs past us. It runs past us, right? But there's nobody there. It's just me and her. The fog is as thick as you could cut the fog. It was that thick. So I called my wife because I'm freaked out. I said, honey, is everything okay at home? She says, no, get home now. The lights were flashing at the house. She went and got sage, and she's burning sage in all of the rooms. She's burning sage all through the house because she's freaked out and scared to death. This is what that guy was telling me before we ever even started shooting the movie. Go ahead and translate that.
No, in fact, Jhon was writing me, man, that sounds scary. I was saying, wait, man, that when I translate, Jhon, sabes muy bien que hay escena, bueno, están las escenas de los rituales. Resulta que cuando se están haciendo los ensayos, o sea, ni siquiera la escena del ritual, que por cierto es una de mis favoritas, estaba el asistente de casting tomando fotos y en el actor habían brillos, o sea, se veían brillantes. Claro, eso asustó muchísimo a la gente que estaba ahí, que de hecho varios actores se retiraron. O sea, el casting que tú ves al final no es el casting inicial de la película. Resulta que hay otra anécdota acá más mío. Deronte ni siquiera había llegado y salen todos corriendo y dicen, por favor, vete. Y yo, pero ¿qué pasa? Fue que se oían en la casa esas voces, pero no había nadie. Resulta que en el momento el que se queda, pero él dijo, no, pues yo voy a entrar a ver, no, si se escucha, él llama a la mujer. Lo primero que hace a la mujer, mi amor, bueno, ¿cómo estás? ¿Está todo bien? No, es que en la casa de ella, las luces estaban así, prendiéndose y apagándose como si nada. Continue, man. You want to say more? You're King Jhon.
So it gets worse, right? So the day of the shoot. So what ended up happening is I ended up hiring this guy because he was a spiritual advisor, right? So when you watch the movie, he's the guy's name's Eugene, right? When he opens the floor up and they go under the floor into the basement level, that's him. That's the same guy I'm telling you about, right? So he's giving me all this advice on the movie, but he's also giving me advice about his home, right? So this is what he says. He says, Deronte, there's going to need to be a blood sacrifice. I'm like, what? He said, no, seriously, there's going to need to be a blood sacrifice for your movie to get made. He said, now, understand, once the blood sacrifice is made, your movie will get done. You will have success with your movie, but the blood sacrifice is required. You just need to know that. I don't want to freak you out. I want to let you know that it's going to happen. You don't have a choice in the matter. I'm like, now, at first I thought he was joking. Then I realized he was serious. And then I'm like, okay, dude, this is a bit much. I kid you guys not. The very first day of the shoot, before we took one shot, it was like about 8 o'clock in the morning. One of my grips was doing something to get everything, and he had a box knife, and he sliced his thumb, almost took his thumb off, sliced his thumb wide open, his hand wide open, gapping. He had to have 10 stitches. Okay. Blood went all over the ground. He was set out right in front of this guy's house. He's got like kind of a porch area, which you'll see in the movie actually. And blood was all over the ground, man. He bled so much. He had to have 10 stitches. That's how much he bled, right? It was deep. And when they went to go and clean the blood up, it was all gone. The ground had swallowed the blood. The ground had soaked up the blood, man. And then after that, he comes back to me. The guy comes over because everyone was panicked. You know, this is the first day of the shoot. The guy comes over to me and says, hey, I just want to let you know the blood sacrifice has been satisfied.
Le dicen que antes que la única forma de que se haga la película es hacer un sacrificio de sangre. Deronte está como que, nada, estás bromeando. Cuando se quedó como que, ok, no estás bromeando. De hecho, esto se alcanza a ver en la película. La persona que hace el sacrificio de sangre se abre acá. Le tuvieron que aplicar 10 puntos porque en realidad estaba sangrando muchísimo. Resulta que toda la sangre que cayó en el piso desaparece. Entonces ellos, pero ¿cómo así? Entonces resulta que le dicen después, listo, ya puedes grabar, ya el sacrificio de sangre se hizo, ya ya fue satisfecha esa alma. Wow, amigo. Dale. ¿Quieres una pregunta o no sé?
Sí, pues si tienes una asa.
No, yo estoy, wow.
Yo, por
A mí me encantó la peli.
Yo, por ejemplo, me quedé como que cuando él dice de las voces, yo escuché, no sé si sea de mí o no, pero cierta parte cuando en el momento del animal, no sé si sea una pitón, men, pero yo lo que le digo es, men, obviamente nadie salió de Dios, pero lo que te digo es, ¿será que para futuras películas tuyas harás más representaciones de el lado oscuro de los animales, men? En el cine, ya fue una pitón, ya fue como tu primera película, tu primera obra, puedes decir, hasta el momento maestra, pero pues seguirás como incentivando ese estilo o cómo fue?
Okay, that's a great question. Another great question. Okay, man. Knowing that you showed in this movie, we can say like a python, like a snake, that it becomes like the symbol of this movie. Somehow, you will continue in your career showcasing. I don't know if the comparison works, but you know that Roger Eggers always show an animal. You know, the goat and the seagull and the I don't remember what was the animal in the Norman. You will continue like showcasing this dark aspect of nature, or what can we wait next for your career? By the way, if this is your star, man, amazing star. I really love the movie.
So that's a great question. So the thing is, it's not really even so much about the animals as it is about, for me, really being authentic in the story, right? So the thing for me is I'm a writer first. I've been writing since I was 10 or 11 years old, right? Winning contests and all this other stuff. So for me, it's really about the story first, right? Once we have a good core story, then I can add in different elements. I can add in different things that make, that are authentic to the story, but to make it feel different, make it feel real, make it feel, I just try to bring in something, a different level of, thought into it and creativity into it. Right. So to give you an example, right now we're in the middle of, we're wrapping up my daughter's pilot so she has a podcast. She's had it for about 3 years. It's called All Things Madison. So it's on all the platforms, right? So All Things Madison podcast, your listeners can check that out. But we've been solicited to make a pilot episode for streaming for a big streamer, right? So what we're looking to do now is we're taking this pilot, we're going to put it out there, and we've expanded the show into a video format. But to your point about the animals, she had these stuffed animals that she has laying around the house. I said, why not do something different? We animated the stuffed animals. So now the stuffed animals talk and they move around and stuff like that, and they interact with my daughter within the show. So going back to your point about the animals and using those in a different way, in a different light, that's one way that we're doing that.
Más que tener ese símbolo con los animales, él, pues ante todo es un escritor, lleva 11 años en su labor de escritor. Dice que siempre es intentar contar algo distinto. Entonces, ¿en qué sentido? Nos contó algo que, por cierto, le dije que puede compartirnos ese link pues, para la entrevista. La hija tiene un podcast y resulta que él dijo, bueno, pero ¿por qué no hacemos algo distinto? Entonces, por ejemplo, en la casa de ella, que me gustaría verla, hay muchos animales disecados. Entonces, hicieron una animación donde mientras está el podcast, están los animales disecados moviéndose. Entonces dice que yendo al grano acá es más que de hacer algo, tener una cuestión con la vida de los animales, es contar algo distinto, porque él lleva 11 años escribiendo, de hecho ha ganado varios premios y todo.
Wow, man, yo creo que para culminar con esta gran entrevista yo puedo decir de que hay Prosper 2 y lo otro, ¿qué futuros proyectos se vienen en mente, man? Yo creo que hay segunda parte. Si no hay segunda parte, entonces, ¿qué pasará?
There will be a Prosper 2? Or what is next in your career? Tell us.
So, okay, such a great question. Prosper, what I want to do next is my plan is to, okay, let's back up for one moment. Since Prosper has gotten a new release, right? So Prosper originally came out in 2015, or 2014 actually. and it had a nice run. We actually had a theatrical run, right? So it was in the movie theaters for about a month. And at that time, we were competing against Annabelle, right? So this is during the month of October. And in, I want to say it was either 7 or 8 different cities, Prosper actually outperformed Annabelle in those movie theaters, in the movie theaters that we're in, right? And this is a little bitty film with no budget, no marketing budget, stuff like that, you know? So we had a great opportunity. It went over to the Cannes Film Festival film market. It got some exposure, got picked up for a couple of countries, stuff like that. Fast forward, we had an opportunity to get it re-released through a different distributor. And so now it's on, you know, a multitude of platforms out there, which your listeners, I just let them know wherever that you watch your VOD content, your video on demand content, they should be able to pull up Prosper. It's called Prosper. Or in some cases, you might look up Prosper the movie. But nonetheless, what I want to do is actually make that into a TV series, right? So because I feel like there's not anything out there like it right now. It's so, you know, it's so different, but it still has, you know, I think there's still a space for it. So that's what I'm looking to do now with Prosper anyways, to make that get it into a TV series, because now it's being reintroduced. People are finding out about it again. I'm starting to see that same kind of energy start to build.
Yeah, man, you're right. There is nothing like that. We consume a lot of terror and horror, and I can compare it with anything. I will tell to my friend Jhon. Tú sabes que se volvió a lanzar, ¿no? Esta película se en el 2015. De hecho, a pesar de haberse estrenado en muy pocos cines, en esos cines le ganó en taquilla a Anabel, lo que me parece increíble. Sí, I was telling Diana that you went to Annabelle in those years, and you won, sorry.
Yeah.
And, y después se fue a varios festivales, creo que alcanzó a entrar un poco a lo de los preseleccionados de Cannes. Y ahorita, al tomarlo, digamos, bueno, obviamente una nueva distribuidora, están en ese contenido por demanda. De hecho, esto puede que aparezca en cuanta plataforma, que eso es lo que espero, pero se viene Prosper, la serie de televisión. ¿Por qué? Porque es verdad, y yo le doy la razón a Deronte. No hay nada como eso, y es verdad. Nosotros consumimos mucho terror y yo no puedo comparar esta película con otra, no puedo.
No, démosle un fuerte aplauso. No, man, tus redes sociales en estos 6 minutos que quedan y la foto.
Okay, man, in this final 6 minutes, tell your social media so people can follow you. Of course, tell the people where they can see Prosper and send a hi to the channel, to wherever you want.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, okay. So, all you guys out there watching the show, listening to it, whatnot, you guys can find Prosper if you go on Facebook, it's Facebook. It's Prosper the movie. That's where you can find, you know, most of on the fan page. We also have a Twitter account, which is Prosper the movie. But with me, you can find me probably, honestly, the best place I would direct you to would be, I have a podcast where I teach filmmaking. And then I bring in all these professionals and stuff like that. They give insight and whatnot. They can find that information on the podcast, as well as an online master class that I present at The Expert Process. So that's theexpertprocess.com, right? That's why I would encourage them, because I've got information there where they can, where they can, connect with me, stuff like that. The other thing too is I let people know that for filmmakers and wannabe filmmakers and writers and people like that, I help people get into the industry as well. So I like to give back, like to try to help out where I can. And filmmakers, I can actually help them get their films placed now, because I have been able to secure so many different distribution relationships. So now I can actually help filmmakers get their stuff out there too. So anyone wants to contact me, I would say, they can reach out to me through theexpertprocess.com. They can email me directly too. I'm accessible, man. It's smith.deronte@gmail. So that's Smith, SMITH.Deronte, DERONTE @gmail.com.
Doy un dato. Es que le dije que comparto unos links porque él da clases de cine. Y él dice que cualquier persona que en el podcast, y también que cualquier persona me puede escribir incluso al correo, que él es una persona muy abierta.
Wow, man, muchas gracias por la oportunidad. Gracias a Mainai, a Samera, a Charlie por la oportunidad. Y no, gracias a ti. Bienvenido sea siempre acá en el canal.
Okay, thanks to you. Thanks, of course, to Samera, to Midnight, to Cherry.
Yes.
And no, man, you're always welcome here.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you guys having me on your show and, expose me to your audience. And just, I tell folks, the last thing I'll let them know, twofold. Number one, the movie is creepy. It's scary. It's creepy. I'll always just try to let people know, like, it's not your typical blood and horror type of film. It gets inside your mind, man. It messes with you. But that's intentional, right? That's deliberate. The other thing I want to let people know is we made this movie with very, very little money. Okay. So I want to encourage people that they can do it. If you have an aspiration, you have a dream, you can do it. That's not to be filmmaking, but you can do it. Right. So I just want to encourage people to let them know that go after your dream and go after it, man. Just be inspired.
Man, believe me that when this interview ends, we will be very inspired to continue writing. Well, I translate. Jhon dice que sigan sus sueños porque esta película se hizo con muy poco presupuesto. Es una prueba. Y lo otro que nos dijo es, no, creo que con eso se resume todo.
No, man, muchas gracias por la oportunidad. Buena suerte, buen éxito y gracias.
Man, good luck, great success. Thank you, man. Gracias.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it.
Bye,
Okay,
bye.
so where can I find this, man? You guys gonna send it to me?
Yes. Jhon will send you the link. In fact, Jhon not also got the YouTube channel, but on Spotify. So,
okay.
Jhon, ya le dije que él dónde va a salir, el canal y obviamente en Spotify.
Y una copia para él también.
And Jhon will send you also a copy for yourself.
Oh, of course, yeah. Is there anything that you guys need from me? Anything else?
Jhon, ¿que necesitas algo más o no?
No, solo eso. Todo bien.
No, everything is fine, man.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much.
You,
I appreciate it. Yes, sir. Thank you. You have a good day, okay?
Bye.
Thank you, man. Bye.
Take care.